It's great to be here. So thanks for the invitation. And what I thought I'd talk to you today is about issues surrounding student group projects and how students work together in projects. And I wanted to talk to you about a trial that we're running of a new technology that will solve some problems relating to group projects. So just do a quick intro. I think you've already introduced me, so that's a little joke, the first line there. If you understand that, it means you're the same generation as me. Yeah, I'm currently working at the School of Mining at UNSW, and I've had quite a lot of experience around educational technology in Sydney. And past career was a language teacher, teaching in Sydney and Asia. So I won't go into any more detail. That's just a quick overview of where I'm coming from and the skills I bring to my job. So what I'd like to do is talk about, I don't want to focus too much on the technology today, but I want to talk more about issues surrounding group work and how we can make group work more effective and more successful, and talk about the trial that we're doing at the moment, moving to a new online technology that we're hoping will be an advantage in our learning and teaching in the School of Mining Engineering. So firstly, I thought I'd ask the question, what are the reasons why an instructor or a teacher will use a group project? Why would they set up a student group project? So, like I just thought I'd put down some of the advantages, group projects have when students work together. Peer teaching is a big one, so, students actually can learn from each other when they work with each other. I think that's a really valuable opportunity because in a lot of teaching environments, like traditional lectures, even in some tutorials, often they don't have a lot of chance to interact with each other. They can learn from each other through that. And there's a whole range of interpersonal skills as well. And they're often the skills that, perhaps you don't really focus on, perhaps when you're focusing more on the content of a course. So I think, communication, cooperation, all those kind of skills of interpersonal skills are really important. So that's another area, big advantage of group projects. Another thing is that student-centred learning. So once again, trying to get students to be more proactive in their learning and take more responsibility and think about their learning more, and they have to do that when they're working with other students, and they have to create some presentation or do some research or surveys or whatever the group project might be. And the other common issue I thought was, that a lot of students have a lot of passive knowledge. They might memorise a lot of information. But the big advantage of a group project is that students can activate that knowledge because they're actually using it to applying the knowledge in particular activities where they have to use that knowledge and apply it to the real world. So, I think there are plenty more advantages of group projects, but there's just a few of them that I put out. And I'll finish up with this one, which is to prepare them for, the sort of skills and capabilities they need in their future careers and lives. So, we don't want students who are going to graduate with a whole bunch of knowledge but unable to use that knowledge out in the quote-unquote real world. And so the more group work they can do, more project work they can do, the better it is for their future. So, we at the UNSW, we have, graduate attributes. I'm sure that you have similar one here. And I just, picked out some of the ones that are very relevant to group projects, like collaborative inquiry, effective communication, collaborative and effective teamwork. So, you know, they're all very relevant, and we need to be able to, you know, prepare the students once they graduate, prepare them for those kinds of skills, and that's where group projects are really, really valuable. So, but if anyone who's used group projects will probably know that often there are a lot of challenges in successfully managing a group project. So here are some of the ones I wanted to point out. You know, sometimes students are not really prepared to take that extra responsibility. They're looking for answers from the teacher, the lecturer. They ask a lot of questions. They want more direction and guidance rather than just taking the initiative. They complain. Students often complain a lot in group projects. They complain about their team members. They don't like the group that they've been put in. Or if they're allowed to create their own groups, they often just, you know, their friends just all group together, and there's issues around that. You know, there's often a lot of disparity between groups. So some groups are very, very working well together, and you don't have to, you know, think about how they're going because they're very proactive and they're doing well. And other groups are very, very passive and quiet, and they don't seem to be communicating much. So there are a whole range of issues around that. And then, you know, the instructor. How does the instructor know, you know, what is happening in the group work? You know, how does he or she know whether it's a successful group, whether they're cooperating and they're communicating well and it's going well? Sometimes it's hard for the instructor to know what's going on. And also students, big one here is students complaining about, you know, other group members who may claim that, you know, they're doing all the work and the other group members may not be. They may be free riding on one or two people who are doing a lot of the work. And related to that issue is grading. You know, like, so a lot of students don't like group projects because they believe that it's unfair for everyone to get the same grade, because they think that individual differences should be reflected in the grade. So that's a big issue. So how would we manage these? Well, you know, like quick ideas. You know, maybe the instructor could give a little bit more structure. You know, be very clear at the beginning. Give a lot of detail. Give a schedule, and give students some signposts. How long would the project take, and what are particular important dates that they need to perhaps hand in. Something like progress reports, or certainly a project plan at the beginning, I think is an effective strategy. And also, you know, it's important, perhaps it's a good strategy also is for the instructor to be very, very clear and explicit about why doing a group project and what the advantage is to the students. And, you know, like things like if there are any problems, don't let it kind of go on. You try to get on top of it early before there are major issues or problems. In my teaching, I had, you know, it's a common experience because in my teaching I used group projects very frequently. And, you know, sometimes groups don't always get along and they have conflicts and they don't know how to deal with the conflict. So it's a good idea to, you know, be perceptive and pick that up as soon as possible and do something to prevent that. So, you know, there are some ideas there. Now, I want to focus on the last problem, which was the problem of students in a group project all getting the same grade. So this diagram, shows you what that issue is. The top chart shows, every student gets the same grade. The teacher gives each group a grade, and each group member gets the same grade. Well, it's hard for the teacher to grade individual students, but maybe an alternative approach is to get the students to peer evaluate each other. So then you can combine the teacher's group grade with the student's peer evaluation grade. So that's the issue. So trying to combine both charts, put them together and combine a group grade with the individual grades, which are generated using the student peer evaluations. So this is kind of how the... I'm going to talk now about the technology side of it. So there are some tools, online tools. You could call them an online peer evaluation tools, which provide one way to, is one strategy to address this issue of grading. So what you do, you go online and you create a rubric, with different criteria and different standards, which the students can use to grade each other. So you decide on what the skills are and you create that. Then you create an assessment and you schedule it, and you put in the information, description and so on. After that, you at a particular point towards the end of the project, the students will go online and log in, and they will peer assess each other within their group. And obviously it's anonymous, of course, because otherwise you wouldn't get totally kind of honest peer evaluation. So the student self-assesses their own contribution, and then they also assess their teammates on various issues around how much effort the student put in, how reliable they were, how easy they were to contact, how cooperative they were, and a whole range of issues. It's up to the teacher to put in the criteria. So from those self-assessment or self and peer assessment grading, then each student gets a peer assessment weighting. So it's 1 would be average, below 1 would be below average, and above 1 would be above average. And then that weighting is multiplied by the teacher's group mark. And that's how you get a kind of an adjusted grade with using the group mark and the peer evaluation mark. Students can also log in and they can see some information about the feedback. They can see maybe some anonymous comments about their participation from the other students. And there are different options where you can allow them to see the feedback. So that's basically how the tool works. Okay, so now I'd like to move on and just talk about this particular trial that we're running. So in the School of Mining Engineering, group projects are very common. Got a very diverse international student body there. Oops, sorry. And we have been using a tool called Spark Plus, which is a very powerful tool, which is an online peer evaluation tool. We're currently trialling a new one called WebPA. And I'll give you a brief rundown of the differences. So Spark Plus is a very good system, and it's developed at UTS, and it's very powerful, but there were some issues which we took into account for why we're trialling something different. So it's not necessarily an easy system to use. It's quite a complicated interface, and people who are not comfortable with, using web pages can have it's quite a steep learning curve. The other thing was it had no integration with our LMS. We use Moodle at UNSW. We're just transitioning from Blackboard to Moodle now. So it had no integration at all, and that just created a lot of administrative headache. Separate login, all student enrolment was manual. Grading had to be, everything had to be done by importing, Excel spreadsheets and exporting them out, and it was just a real headache. And then, overall, it just was quite time-consuming, a lot of administrative overhead, and kind of fiddly. And so that's why we looked at this. That's why we decided to trial this new system called WebPA. This is an open source software developed in the UK, and it does a very, very similar thing. They're both doing the same thing, but the advantages we thought were it's integrated. So because it's open source software, we've been able to take it and modify it and create a plug-in into our LMS, Moodle, and that means that everything is integrated. You don't have to log in, and all the grading is published directly to the Moodle gradebook, and you don't have to enrol students. They're automatically, all the students and student groups are all automatically migrated across to the WebPA tool. So, whoops, and didn't mean to click there. Okay, and it's overall a more intuitive interface as well. So it's a little bit easier for people to use and to learn. It's a shorter learning curve. And I've already mentioned that advantage, that being open source, it's very customisable as well. Okay, so I maybe finished a couple of minutes early, but that's basically where we're at. So where we're at the moment is that we're just going to trial the WebPA tool in 2 or 3 courses in this semester, and if it's successful, then we'll be looking at rolling it out across all our courses in second semester. So there's always issues with bringing in new technologies, change management. People get used to something and they're very comfortable with it. And so I think that's, whenever you're bringing in a new educational technology, that's always an issue. So, we've got a couple of people, sort of worrying and, bringing up skeptics who are bringing up problems or potential problems. So I think the important thing about that is to make sure everyone knows it's a trial and it's not going to be adopted unless everyone's happy, and to take it step by step and gradually, so that no one, gets too spooked by something new and different, and so that they can see the advantage of it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say, and I'd be happy to take any questions.